Welcome to the ultimate podcast experience with conversations about politics, religion, finances, and the meaning of life, and all the other subjects and stories that Nana told you not to bring to the kitchen table, and a whole lot more. Join our hosts, James the Red, You'll Be Back, and Sam the Slippery Smooth Producer as they settle the ultimate question, have y'all heard about this? Guys, I'm here. I've got guns pointed at me.
Hey, wouldn't phase. He's sleeping in the tidal pool.
Is that code for you talk way too much?
Listen, I love my dad, but he is no mechanic.
Baylor's playing McCullough tonight.
I named my electric vehicle after you.
$25,000 per day.
Oh, man.
Get him addicted, lay off for months, and then you come back.
We're rolling.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, snowmen.
It is cold outside and dark. I was driving in this morning and I thought, I'm just going to tell these guys a truth that I, after all the years we've known each other, you should know about me. And that is that my mind is like a fine Italian sports car. It's not meant to be driven before dawn out on the street. It's meant to be paraded around town at 10 o'clock at night while everyone's out admiring it for its beauty and its prowess.
Did you say your mind?
My mind.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
My mind is not like a Ford farm truck. My mind is like a red Italian Ferrari.
It's a Ford Escort right now.
Of course, it's 26, and here comes Sam on his motorcycle this morning.
Yeah.
Like glutton for
I'm very
punishment.
impressed with you. 26 degrees on
like
a motorcycle is not
Give it like
smart.
one more week and you can drive your snowmobile in.
So what's interesting is like I was really bundled up. I have a very poofy jacket that I put under my motorcycle jacket, and then I doubled up on gloves, put a ski mask on. So I was, like, honestly, I stayed pretty warm, but something that I noticed is that there's a flaw in jackets and that they've got a zipper that's going. And so I was just really cold, like right in the center of my chest.
My sternum is freezing.
Yeah, exactly. My
If you
sternum.
take that zipper off, it becomes a shirt.
Yeah.
Sam pulled up. I was changing a light here at the outside on the
Didn't really
porch.
know that was me.
That I knew, like, it had to be dead because the security lights have not come on in a year. So I was like, maybe it's just they're not, working. Like, maybe they're shot. So I was changing a light, and Sam pulls up, and I can't tell if he's a bank robber.
A bank robber.
Like he said, he looked like he weighed 280 pounds with all that poofy stuff on. And then but he couldn't talk. I was like, "Hey, Sam." He's like,
I couldn't hear
waving
you.
the
I
finger.
had
Oh,
earbuds
you couldn't
in,
hear me.
the helmet,
Okay.
the ski mat. There's
I was like, he could. I thought he
was
couldn't
frozen.
talk. He couldn't
He
hear.
was so cold he couldn't even talk.
I was like, I hope Yule's not talking to me right now because I would not be able to hear him if he yelled at me.
He
Right
finally took his helmet off, and he looked like the guys from Dumb and Dumber. After they rode that motorcycle to Colorado.
John Denver.
That's so funny.
You can have an extra pair of these gloves. My hands are kind of sweaty.
This is a good segue into what we were wanting to talk about. I think what got me so passionate about motorcycles was my grandpa.
Ah,
Yeah, he used to ride, and apparently he used to ride in all kinds of weather. And the gloves that I've got are actually his old gloves, the big
cool.
ones. So, yeah, and I used to ride with him when I was 8 on the back, and he'd go ride around Donaldson Center in South Carolina, and it was this big loop, and that was like some of the best memories I have.
before you
ever.
tell me, can I guess his motorcycle that he rode? Don't tell me.
Yeah,
Can I guess it?
Yeah, let me guess.
Yeah,
too.
he's had
Wait, don't
3.
say it.
I'm
Okay.
I'm just saying he's had 2 or 3.
They were
so,
all the same.
They were a little different. They
All right,
kept-
okay.
They
I've
kept
already-
getting bigger.
What did your granddad do for a living? Was he
was an
a
orthodontist.
dentist? Yeah.
Ooh,
okay, so he was an
Ooh,
orthodontist.
hold on. This
All
could
right.
change everything.
No, I know.
He was
think I
the
know.
son of the first orthodontist in South
Honda
Carolina.
Goldwing.
Dude, I was going to say a Honda Goldwing.
That's because he never went to the Goldwing, but very close.
But
Very
a
It was
Honda.
A Harley
Honda.
Heritage Softail Classic.
It was a Honda.
Yeah. One of the big.
So
Cruisers.
he ended up getting a Valkyrie, which he had
Oh, yeah,
no
those
busy,
are big cruisers.
no business riding. He was a small man, like he was way smaller than I am.
What the
And
heck are you talking about? He had no business.
one time,
Who are you, Sam? You Ovatarian.
no, I mean I say that with like definitely
He's like,
some
"Let me
respect.
He's like, let me get into my electric vehicle.
Have I told y'all if I've be prepared for an edit, Sam?
Okay.
to edit this out. Have I told y'all about me driving that doctor's motorcycle that time?
Mm-mm.
The big Honda Goldwing?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
Why do
I
you
didn't
have
know
to
you
edit
rode
this? Did you
motorcycles.
I
rent it?
think the statute of limitations has passed on this.
Oh, did you steal it?
Well,
Do you want me to edit this out or not?
no, a buddy of mine and I think I was in college already, ended up going on a little weekend jaunt to a lake house, and there happened to be a brand new I shouldn't say it. There was a motorcycle in the garage, and we asked one of the people there, could we ride it? And they said, sure. So we did about 100 miles, like 50 miles one way and 50 miles back. Like we were
Were there like two
me
dudes?
and a buddy.
Two dudes on a Goldwing.
I mean, I think there's even like a separation seat, so you're fine on
Yeah,
Gold Wings.
it was like a bus. Listen, this thing was so big, it was like I was driving the bus and he was on the back seat. Like, that's how big it was.
They're like
So at
they're pretty
least
much cars.
You were at least riding the bike. Like
I was driving.
Okay. Is that like? I feel like this is awkward. Like
There's a lot about that weekend that I will not disclose on this podcast, but just suffice it to say that when I came back, I looked down at the odometer and it was like 118.
Why didn't you put it up on center blocks and ride it in reverse?
Because a Goldwing weighs about 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, those are heavy bikes.
But
Yeah, they are.
like it never occurred to me to look at the odometer before we rode it. And we got back and I looked like, oh, I wonder if they'll notice it. We rode it, had 118 miles on it. We just put 100 on it. It had never been ridden.
Where'd you guys go?
Well, we were in the Shoals area. We were at the lake, so we drove down to Spring Park, and it was a bad time.
So it was a
I should've
brand
never
new
done that.
motorcycle. They had barely put any miles on it. You put 100 on there.
I think the owner, who was not home, obviously that's why we were partying at his lake house, was probably had ridden it to his home from the dealership.
Yeah, 18 miles is about right. Yeah. Mine had 6 miles.
Well, 118 is what I had, right?
Well, we put
They
100
put
on
100 on it.
it. I'm sure the first time he really rode it, he's like, man, I didn't think it was that far from the dealership.
Well, I'll tell the motorcycle story.
We almost
after
wrecked
this.
it. We almost
Well,
wrecked it.
speaking
Oh
of
my
wrecking and
gosh.
motorcycles, so this is a cautionary tale
Oh, no.
for all of you young people out there listening. And it's a tale about respecting your parents, respecting your father specifically. When I was about 11 or 12, I had a dirt bike, and I was out riding with some buddies, and we'd been out it's like a Saturday. We're off school. We'd been out riding all day.
Nice.
And we'd all stopped temporarily in my driveway, and my dad came out and was like, hey, you need to come on in, put the dirt bike away. And I just had a really, really terrible, ugly spirit about it. Like I didn't want to. I mean, I wanted to keep riding with my buddies, and they were all there, and I thought, okay, this is, it's just kind of like, I don't want to. That was the thing. I don't want to. So he said, all right, put it up. Let's come inside. And so he walked on inside, and so I thought, well, I'm gonna show him. And so I just thought, I'm just gonna tear across this, from my driveway across the yard on one wheel as fast as I can, just tearing it up. And so I was like, and I had I think at the time it was a Yamaha YZ80. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
Little yellow and black scheme. I mean, really sweet. They actually brought them back as a retro style just recently. But so I'm on that little 2-stroke engine. I think it was
2-stroke.
It
Wow.
was, I think maybe it was a 4.
It's like pre-mixed.
Anyway, so here I am sitting here, and I'm like, and I like let it rip, and I'm like going fishtailing on one wheel, and going through the yard, tearing it up, and then all of a sudden the bike just launches into the air, and I'm like laying on my back. I can see the bike going through the air, and just landed in this big like set of trees and bushes, and broke 4 or 5 things off of it, and.
There are a few who will get this reference, but I'm picturing in my mind a gentleman named Pawnee White from the Dancing Outlaw series, Jessica White, the Dancing Outlaw. And when they were out in front of the trailer and it's kind of, gray outside and Pawnee's just giving that motorcycle everything it's got just to show off. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. That's kind of what it was like. It was really just me being ugly.
Hey, did you know Pawnee White met an early demise? I mean, I know you'd be surprised that any of the Whites from the Dancing Outlaw
how did
series.
any of them live past 25.
Pawnee White, apparently because they came out with a new movie that I do not recommend. Hear me out, friends. I'm telling you, don't watch this movie. But The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia was something that I felt compelled to watch because I was such a fan of The Dancing Outlaw. But this takes it to I can't even explain how bad it is. It's just watching these people live their daily lives. But Pawnee ended up no, I'm saying Pawnee. Maybe it was Dorsey. It was Dorsey. Shot himself in the head. He was showing someone a gun and proving to them it was not loaded.
And they filmed it?
No. They just this is years later after this happened. They showed his headstone at the cemetery, and he's like, "Yep, he blowed his brains out."
Oh my god!
It was an accident. It was just a.
Well,
I'm not recommending the movie. It's horrible.
Well, to kind of bring this back full circle, kids, don't disobey your father. Don't have an ugly spirit. Don't destroy your things because you're just being stupid.
And don't play with guns.
And don't play with guns. And don't try to prove to someone it's not loaded by actually pulling the trigger and showing them it is. All right.
Always pull the trigger in the safe direction.
So your granddad had a Valkyrie.
Valkyrie.
That's pretty sweet.
So that engine,
it's a big bike.
Just for listeners who aren't familiar with motorcycles, it looks like a Honda Civic engine put on a motorcycle. I'm not even it's huge. Massive.
Did you ever burn your the inside of your calves?
Yes, all the time. Ow!
Dude,
did you guys have did you have go-karts when you were growing up?
Oh, I wrecked somebody's go-kart, a friend's of mine. I was trying to show off to a girl. I mean,
my first motorized
pride goes before you crash a go-kart, I guess.
my first motorized, where you didn't have to pedal it, apparently was one of these little battery powered kind of motorcycles,
like a scooter that you'd ride at Walmart.
Those are great.
No. I'm talking about that a 2-year-old rides.
Oh,
that has the battery on it. Bzz,
well, how old were you?
About 2,
oh.
2 or 3. But the upgrade from that was a go-kart.
Yes,
and I nearly got killed on that.
Oh no.
Well, do tell.
Were you 2?
Y'all, I'm 47, and this happened when I was 4. And I remember the events of this day. This is one of my earliest childhood memories, I guess. I had this go-kart, and we had these huge fields out behind the house. Great place to ride. And what I was going to tell you is that I progressed into the go-kart to a little motorcycle to a 3-wheeler to another 3-wheeler. And on each of those vehicles, I almost died. Every single one of them, I can recall a wreck that I had that could have killed me.
Yeah, the dreaded 3-wheeler, especially.
And but on the go-kart, I'll just tell,
not very sturdy.
I'll just tell the go-kart one today. But I think I was 4. I could have been 5 years old, but I was out there riding, and my dad was watching me. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if the thing wouldn't crank or whatever it was. I don't know if it was. The engine wasn't running well, but I remember Dad goes over there and he does something to the engine. And he plays it with. And listen, I love my dad, but he is no mechanic.
Did my dad have a Miller High Life in one hand, and his brothers around him? And did he say, "Y'all watch it"?
I don't know that my dad will ever listen to this podcast.
Starter fluid or something.
My dad would be the type that if he needed to work on an engine, he was as likely to have a chainsaw in his hand as a monkey wrench. He just was not very mechanically inclined. There were things he did in work as a boilermaker and a welder that he was extremely talented at, but other things, oh my goodness. So he ended up doing something to this engine, and when he turned me loose and cranked that thing, it was full blast, and the brakes, I did not have enough pressure to stop it. So luckily I'm in this huge field.
Oh man!
And I'm just I don't know what to do. And once I realize I can't stop it, all I know to do is kind of try to make big circles.
That's smart at 4.
And so here comes Dad. He realizes I'm in distress, so he's trying to get to me. Well, he can't because I'm running like a scalded dog in big circles. I remember one time I go past him and I literally see him. He dove. He dove. And I don't know if, in hindsight, again, I don't know if he was diving trying to knock me off the go-kart or grab me or do something to
probably left his Miller High Life in the back of it.
What? Give me my beer back. What are you doing running off with my beer?
Crash this. Just don't crash with my beer.
Where we lived, where our house was, we had a chain link fence all the way around the backyard. And I kind of ran out of driving room, so I'm headed just toward back home. And guys, I'm headed as fast as that thing will go right toward that chain link fence.
Oh no!
And I ended up hitting either a hole or a bump or something. Hit it pretty hard enough that it knocked the chain off of that go-kart. And when that chain came off, obviously I could stop it. It had no more acceleration. But again, that would have I don't know that would have killed me.
The engine just sit there like revving up.
Yeah. It was like. So that's
what kind of engine was it? Do you remember? I mean, you were 4. You probably don't know. But.
It was a V.406.
Well, we had a little go kart that my dad made, I think he got the cart just like the frame from somebody, and he put a 5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engine on the back of it. Which doesn't sound like a lot. When you're a little kid on a light little frame, that thing would scoot. I remember drifting that thing sideways into my yard when I was a kid.
And listen, I guess, it's because I love my kids enough that I don't want them to grow up one day and say I nearly died 7 times. But it wasn't that the parents didn't love me. I mean, their love for me was what was causing them to give me these motorized vehicles, right? But it's so weird, and we've talked about this before. My kids, I mean, they're 12 and 7 now, and I think we're just now comfortable with them walking around the neighborhood alone. I couldn't. You couldn't give me enough money to say, "Hey, give him a 3-wheeler." Even my 12-year-old.
No, not a
much less my 7-year-old.
I mean, there's a reason that people don't make 3-wheelers. I mean, they were completely
high death rate, right?
Yeah, for sure. Did you guys ever hear that theme park called Action Park?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay, you just do yourself a favor and go to YouTube and YouTube Action Park.
Where was it?
It was an amusement park. It was located in New Jersey. Vernon Township is where it was located. It got sued into oblivion after many people died, basically. I mean, this stuff was crazy. 3 separate attraction areas. They had an alpine center. So they had this place where you went way up into this mountain, and then they launched you down in this concrete alpine slide. And it was, I mean, people literally were coming off the track, flying through the air. But people loved it. I mean, they came from everywhere to go there.
People took legal action.
So what happened eventually? I guess they fell into this trap of just they didn't maintain the equipment very well. They had untrained, people supervising it, underage kids out there. I mean, it was a little bit. So it was like a bunch of 1970s and 80s dads with their Miller High Lives watching their sons drive around in the field in a souped-up go-kart. Those are the people that own that, and that place was insane. You guys should just go look it up.
That's crazy.
So we went to Gatlinburg recently up to an area called Anakeesta. You ever been up to that?
I've heard of it.
It's beautiful.
It's is it you get roped in and go through a ropes course?
No. Anakeesta is it's just kind of on top of the mountain. It has a lot of different things to do. It has little playgrounds, a couple of snack bars. It has a huge bridge that you can walk across.
But that swing bridge. It's not like a ropes course? I thought it was. Maybe they have one there.
I think they have some oh goodness, what do you call it? The zip line stuff. They've got some zip lines that you can get on.
That's what it was.
And they do have they have these little rope bridges from tree to tree. It doesn't cost anything to do that. It costs enough to get up there, I'll tell you that. But I mean, it's a really cool place, but they had a mountain coaster, and of course you had to pay extra for that. And we did that one, and I nearly came off of it. I was, you're kind of asking, well, can you ride this one down without a brake? And some of them you can, like some of those mountain coasters, you could literally just not even touch it, and they're never going to give you anything rough enough that you couldn't handle, or they're banked right. Well, this thing's basically, it doesn't bank; it's just straight. And I was just kind of seeing what it would do, and it turned so fast. I remember going, it knocked the breath out of me a little bit.
Oh my god!
And I wasn't full speed. I was braking some, but I was pushing it. But I could see where I could have come out of that.
Some of those rickety wooden coasters that just hurt.
Yeah,
it's just
the Screaming Eagle at Six Flags is a pretty rough coaster.
That one.
Well, listen, at this
crazy.
This place at Action Park I was saying about in New Jersey, they had these go-karts that you could get in, and they had this track, and the go-karts would go at a speed of 20 miles per hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're in a little go-kart on a track, but that was the governed speed, 20 miles an hour. So what they would do, anybody that asked, they would get up and they would take a tennis ball and they would shove it down into where the governor is and hold it open. And you went wide open.
Well, that's basically what Dad did. He ungoverned.
Well, some people do that with mowers. Because speaking about Briggs and Stratton, there's like those riding mowers. Apparently, those have a governor on there, and some people have taken them off, and they can do like wheelies with them and stuff like that. Little lawn tractors.
Did y'all? So now theme park kind of stuff. I have been, I've probably told y'all when I graduated high school, I was skinny as a rail. So growing up, I was even smaller. And I remember riding a ride. I don't know if it was Six Flags or something, but I remember riding one time, like, if I don't hold on, like, I'm coming out of this. Like, this will, it's one of those that doesn't have a seat belt, but it kind of comes down. No, it kind of comes down from the top.
Oh, okay.
And it just, I wasn't snug. Like, I had to hold on. Like, I'm coming out of that.
Where was this?
I think it was probably Six Flags.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's that.
It may not have been. I went to a few different theme parks.
Yeah, you just like, that's just like God, can you imagine having one of your kids get up in the top of something like that free fall or something and they're not strapped in?
Well, did y'all saw, I think it was within the last year, a kid down in Florida, they had one of those rides that, I hate these. They're round, and everybody sits in this big thing. And they take you up a big pole and then just drop you, like free fall you and drop you, and it takes your stomach away. I hate it. I hate that one.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, that would have been my favorite thing, but as an adult, I despise that ride. But a kid was probably heavier than recommended.
Oh no!
And when that thing came down and it just kind of stopped, he kept going, and it
killed
killed him. Yep.
He just smashed into the ground.
Yeah, it was fatal.
So in that action park I was telling you about, within the span of 3 years, listen to the deaths they had. In the span of 3 years, they were open.
3 years.
You guys need to go look this up. It's called Action Park in New Jersey.
I'm afraid.
So in 1980, a 19-year-old was riding the Alpine slide and was launched from the slide 100 feet, hit his head on a rock, and killed him.
Hold on, what year was this?
1980.
Okay. The reason I ask is because when we would go to the fair as a kid, the county fair, the state fair, whatever that came, the rolling fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were always these stories of, somebody got thrown out of the swing ride up in New Jersey, and you never believed it.
It was always in New Jersey.
Because you didn't have Google or the internet or, they didn't cover the news.
No, there were so many stories. I was thinking about that the other day. How many stories did I hear as a kid that were just complete bogus?
Are they true? But are these true? These are true, Sam. We're reading it on the internet right now.
All right, so in 1982, a 15-year-old named George Lopez was drowned in the tidal wave pool. In 1982, a 27-year-old man from Long Island, New York, tipped his kayak on this ride and got out. He stepped on a grate that was either in contact with or came close to a section of live wiring.
Oh, no.
And it electrocuted him.
On a water ride?
On a water ride. In 1984, a fatal heart attack suffered by one visitor. 1984, Donald DePass, a 21-year-old from Brooklyn, drowned in the tidal wave pool. Gosh. And then an 18-year-old drowned in the tidal wave pool. So those are just like 6 deaths within the span of 3 years.
So what if, just hypothetically, we learned that none of those were accidents, that, New Jersey's just eating up with the mob? And what if they were all hits?
I don't know. The guy with the heart attack, it's like, you can have a heart attack anywhere. You have a heart attack at Red Robin over in Hamilton Place.
Reverend Vito Camucci got out of the kayak and he had a heart attack.
Hey, he wouldn't pay.
It's all your fault.
He's sleeping in the tidal pool.
He's sleeping in the tidal pool. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, so I've got to tell you guys, we've created a lot of good activity with our podcast coming back. We've got people coming out of the woodwork so happy. And, just consider this our Christmas gift to you.
We love you.
We love you.
I've not heard anything from David Little. He's probably just so busy with city government.
Just joking.
But who I have heard from several times is my dear friend Chad Hester, and I've got another guy.
Chad, I was worried we'd lose Chad.
No, okay. Chad's all over.
Bless him.
But I've got another friend who said, "Hey, if you guys," he said, "I bring nothing to the table, but I just love your podcast, and if you ever want to have me on there, I would just be honored."
Who is this?
We'll do it.
Just a guy I play golf with.
We'll do it.
And I'm like, I'm like, okay,
Why not?
we're always looking for guests.
I talked to that guy. A guy you play golf with the other day. He was going.
Yep,
He was going up to Chicago to get you some beefsteaks.
Oh man,
The young guy?
beef, Italian beef sandwiches.
Oh,
I mean, he didn't go to Chicago to get beef.
He
from me.
literally
Just to
told
get
me
you old
on
beefsteaks.
Monday night he was going up there to get you some beefsteaks.
Oh, he's going back.
He said this week.
Well, he needs to call me because I need to give him some cash. Because
He's going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Here's the beefsteaks. Now do me a favor.
He's flying out.
All right, so Chad, man,
Because Chad's the one that's in the band, right?
no, though.
Okay.
That's Chad Gamble.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, I have the name.
Chad Gamble's in Europe right now. They're touring. Just got done with Amsterdam. I think they're doing.
Were they
London.
in?
They're going to go support Ukraine.
So I can see in the podcast analytics, I can see location data
Mhm.
on people, and we recently had a listener from what's that place? That's such a what's that place? So it's like Grenada.
Grenada?
Would he have been in Grenada? Who?
I don't
That's
think
not in
so.
Europe.
But
Hey, if you're a listener in Grenada, email us at HYHAT podcast@gmail.com.
or even write a review. Like, let us know.
Write us
Yeah,
a
we
review.
did get a 5-star review. Did I?
Did we really?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty famous one. It was Elon Musk.
Oh,
Gave us a 5-star review. Can I read it?
Did he?
real quick?
Yeah.
Did he tweet it or just put it on the podcast?
No, he put it on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
actually, he sent it to me via text. He said,
Oh,
He said, "HYHAT podcast team, I'm writing this to let you know that I am extremely proud of your podcast." He said, "As a man who values free speech,
Mm.
I love that we live in a country that would allow even you guys to have a podcast. I'm nominating you for the 3 Twits Award,
Yes.
and hopefully you win. Congrats on the
Wow.
podcast. Outstanding job, and may freedom reign in America."
Elon, you're my hero.
Elon.
Woo!
I named
Nice.
my electric vehicle after you. Little
All right,
little Elon.
Let me get back to Chad. Chad and I are really kind of kindred spirits because we're not just storytellers; we are novel tellers. And you're
Is
going to
that
know.
code for you talk way too much?
Well, hold on. Let me just tell this to you. So, Chad and I have he was like, "Hey, good to have HYHAT back. Give me a thumbs up." And then we talked a little bit about the podcast, some things that I can't share here. But he says, "By the way, I have kicked myself for not having told you my dog story," all caps. Okay. While I had you captive on the golf course for a few hours. It happened last Thanksgiving and jumped back to top of mind a couple of weeks ago. The condensed version requires about 30 to 45 minutes of uninterrupted conversation. Next time you see me and can spare that, ask me. I promise you won't regret it. As a heart attack. Like, guys, I'm telling you, this is how
It's a
Chad
heart
and I
attack
roll.
in the wave pool of
This is how Chad and I roll because we just appreciate a good story and we don't get like we value the details,
Mhm.
like all the things that lead up. So
You were good at telling stories, Yule.
well,
give you
thank
that.
you.
I'll give you that.
So he says to me, I say to him, "I cannot wait." I said, "I've also needed a retelling of your deer story that you shot the antlers off of that time. I need a refresher on how that one went." So
Wait,
there was this.
You shot?
No.
antlers off
Chad
the-
did.
Oh,
And so there's this story, and it took, I'm going to say a good 28 minutes for him to tell the story the first time. And we won't go into that. But he,
Y'all
so
are
he-
like the Ents
but
from
listen,
Lord of the Rings.
but I remembered this deer story, and he responds with this text, and I'm going to go ahead and read it, Chad, with your permission. Chad, if you don't want me to read it right now, just edit it out.
Wait, Chad's editing it out?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know whether Chad
All right,
doesn't want this or not?
So this is a true story, and he told this, and like it was the most unbelievable thing when I first heard it, but true story. He says, "I can give you a text version of the deer story." He says, "I jumped a buck down in a ravine with a noticeably unique rack, running full speed. I shot him, and he dropped immediately into some tall weeds. I couldn't see him, but I waited a few minutes, and clearly he didn't get up. It was getting dark, so I made a break to go get my ATV with some daylight left. When I returned, there was no deer, but a large circle of flattened grass where the deer had thrashed around. I only found 1 or 2 tiny spots of blood. So deer's gone, lost him.
No way.
Fast forward exactly 1 month, Last day of the season, 6 inches of snow on the ground. I walk over a hill and jump up a doe and buck that start running away. I can tell it's the same unique rack, but this time his left side is facing me versus his right side. He stops to look back, and I drop him dead in his tracks. Wow. When I get to him, his right antler is snapped off about 2 inches above the hair, and he has a perfect bullet hole through his right ear. I have to wait until next weekend for the snow to melt, but returned to the deep weeds and found the upper half of the right antler where I shot it in two. He says, I still have that skull and antler piece somewhere.
No
so he
way.
shoots this deer the first time, and he basically, the bullet, instead of hitting, the deer in the neck or something, he hits it in the antler, and the bullet goes through the ear.
Goodness.
And then a week later, he ends up killing the same deer. Like that's either a very lucky hunter or a very unlucky deer.
Maybe the deer was coming back for. It's like, I'm gonna get you.
Good thing Chad had a gun. But I cannot wait to hear the dog story. I mean, I'll get it, and I bet it's going to be podcast worthy.
Oh, you've never heard it?
I've never heard it. He says I need 45 minutes. Which
our
I will
podcast
give.
is 45 minutes. You can just sit here and tell it.
Chad,
now we're
call or text when you when you hear this, and if you want to tell it on the podcast itself,
we'll make it happen.
We'd love to have you here.
Yeah,
if you can get up at 6 a.m., we'll have you.
A buddy named Wes who has said that he would want to come and tell this story. An amazing. Speaking of motorcycles, which we started off with today, this guy had a motorcycle stolen out from under him, and single-handedly tracked it down and busted up. Well, I don't want to give the story away. It's an amazing story. And so I said, hey, Wes, come tell the story. And he said, I'd love to, but I will not tell the story at 6 a.m. So.
Oh, well, sorry, Wes. Can't be on the podcast. I agree.
I mean, we're about to transition out of some sports into basketball, but
basketball's not a sport.
But I don't think basketball is quite as intense. We actually both of our kids played soccer, and then Alexander played flag football, and I had said I wasn't going to do like multiple sports for one kid ever again, but we did it, and we've actually kind of enjoyed it. But there was one time we played. I can't remember what all we played, but I know Thomas Paul was. Well, it was before Alexander was born, maybe. But no. What Thomas Paul was playing baseball and soccer, and then we thought it'd be cute to sign up like 2-year-old Alexander to play soccer too. And there was a week I remember we were at the ball field every single day.
2-year-old soccer,
just too much. It was too much. Especially to see a 2-year-old like just give him a ball in your yard. And
they're just all running around. I'm just imagining like the coordination that must have to happen for 2-year-old.
They're out there taking bets. So who's going to fall first and who's going to start crying?
Who's going to cry first?
Oh, my mom.
Well, listen. This is kind of cool. Alexander, you guys saw when we all got together Wednesday night. He is such a ham.
Dude, he's
just
a funny kid,
give that kid a microphone.
He loves Rick Astley.
He kind of reminds me. I don't mean this as an insult because these kids are terrible in this movie, but so I'll say that but in a funny way, he reminds me of that kid in Talladega Nights.
Oh my goodness!
Does he not remind you of that just a little bit?
He does. Like, he's not vulgar.
I come at you like a spider monkey.
He's not mean.
That's what I mean. I don't mean he's vulgar.
I thought you were going to say Dennis the Menace.
For the remainder of this podcast, Sam and you'll air out their grievances with each other.
Oh, hey, speaking of that,
just his
aren't
energy
we getting
level
very close to Festivus?
Festivus for the rest of us?
No.
What?
You know what Festivus is?
I do not know what Festivus is.
It's
from the Seinfeld show.
Festivus for the rest of us.
The airing of the grievances.
The airing of the grievances.
No, so Alexander's a ham, and we're playing flag football, and he is going on Saturday. We've got our final game, and it's going to be played at Baylor Stadium, and on their turf in the field, they're going to announce their names, and he is just like beside himself. Like he is pumped up like an Alabama player for the Iron Bowl. So It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's like now playing for the Flags, number 14, Glenn.
Yeah, but it's just like right up his alley. Like he just cannot. He's like, Dad, you think I can be on a football card one day?
Football card?
And I'm of course I tell him yes, but I'm like, son, nobody collects football cards.
Even when people collected baseball cards, no one collected football cards.
Yeah.
Like the Tim Tebow rookie card's probably worth 38 cents. It's like football cards have no value.
Man, there was one night we were canoeing down the Tennessee River, and we canoed to Williams Island, which is an island right across from Baylor.
Yes,
And
I've been studying Williams Island,
and we were camping out on Williams Island, and we had canoed way down the river, and so like we were hoping to reward ourselves with this great wilderness experience out on this island. And we get there and we get everything unloaded and we get, all of our stuff up to the campsite and pitch our tents. And we're just relaxing there. And all of a sudden we hear the Baylor football team marching band come on.
Oh, man.
And then it was like, Baylor's playing McCullough tonight. It was pandemonium for 3 hours.
That reminds me a little bit of our AT hike that time. Like part of the time you thought you were in the, biggest wilderness in the world, and then like you'd get up by like a road into Gatlinburg.
Yeah, we're having picnics, eating fried chicken. Be like, "Hi, y'all, want some fried chicken?"
So that Williams Island, a couple questions. So we boated by that and see the cows on it and everything.
Yes, I was going to say there's a lot of cows on it.
Are there? Do you have to get permission to camp there? Or do they just kind of let you
do?
Permission?
Yeah, it's run by the Tennessee River Gorge Trust.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
and it's free though. You just call them and say you'd like to camp out, and they set you up and you get a permit. And we've done it, I think, 3 times. And so what we've usually done is just put it in canoes, maybe up at Coolidge Park. Yeah. And we've even gone even further up, almost up near the dam.
It's perfect.
And just canoed all the way down. And you can stay on McClellan Island as well, which is the island right under Veterans Bridge.
I've been on that one.
Very nice. And then so in the past, we've stayed either McClellan or gone down to Williams and then floated on down into the gorge and then just taken out at Raccoon Mountain. It's a great little trip.
Yes.
And of course, you gotta avoid the barges and the bass boats and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I've always wanted to. This would be probably highly illegal, but I'm just going to go ahead and admit that I would do this. So if anybody wants to come and arrest me now. I love McClellan Island because you have the bridge that goes under it or over it, excuse me. And they call it, what do they call it, James? It's like they call it something desert under the bridge because there's no trees under the bridge and you go in and you feel like you're inside.
Is this the island across from the Hunter Art Museum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I've swam to it before. Me and my buddy, we swam out to it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not smart.
And, well, yeah.
I mean, but go ahead.
We did it. No, but what I want to do, so I've done that, but what I'd love to do is get up the catwalks under that bridge and rappel down to McClellan Island. I think that would be really cool. But I don't know. So anybody in City Works.
It's not actually over the island, is it?
Yeah, it does. It goes right over.
It's right over the side of it.
So all this stuff about legality just reminded me to tell y'all something. So where I grew up, if you wanted to burn something, you just burned it. Like tires, go-karts,
old diapers.
I mean, like really, like nobody cared if you burned anything. And so now we've got a lot of leaves, and I'm giving you guys way too much details for this
those leaves
content.
make good compost. You should just compost it.
Well, you should see how many we have.
You'll get a lot of compost.
Yeah, I don't need it.
You could sell it, Yul.
I don't need it.
Sell
leaves? So we have to
when it rots.
Our front yard leaves we've kind of blown and raked to the curb, and they're supposed to come and vacuum them up today or tomorrow, I think. But then the back of our yard has so many leaves. So I'm like, okay, we've got this little drainage ditch. We like to call it a creek, but it's really a ditch. And but what I want to do last year,
has a creek in the backyard.
I wanted to. Well, when it's raining, we do have a very nice creek, but when it's not, we just have a ditch.
When it rains.
But I want to kind of rake all those leaves down into that kind of ditch bed, and then burn them. Just burn them, like good old times. Well, you've got to have a burn permit. And then I started thinking too. We got a lot of work here at the church and some brush that we're wanting to clear along our creek. We do have a creek in our backyard here at the church. And I'm wanting to get a lot of that stuff and just pile it up and burn it. So, being the responsible citizen that I am, I looked up, how to get a burn permit. It's very easy. It's only like $10, and there's certain days, certain months, for example, that you can burn, and you got to kind of check with them on burn days. Obviously, you don't, we're near a mountain. You don't want to do it on a high wind day and all this. Yeah. But this is a $10, and you said this about the rappelling, and that's what made me think of this. This is a highly regulated, but it's a $10 permit. Non-compliance with any of the above conditions could result in civil penalties up to what, Sam? I want you to just guess. If you don't get your $10 permit and you go burning the way you're not supposed to do, what could they charge you?
Is it like a felony?
5 years in prison.
No, this is a monetary penalty. I want you to just guess on a $10 permit. If you don't comply, what they can charge you.
$500. I'll just throw it out there.
If I
just guess, come on, we don't have much time left.
It's not Jeopardy. Just
$50.
$25,000 per day.
Per day.
Let's see. You burned your leaves for 3 days. You owe us $75,000. Go ahead and pay.
I thought you were going to say the fine was less than the permit or something.
That would have been funny.
It's like this is the one time in my life that I'm like, I'm getting that $10 permit.
Ridiculous.
Look, my dad gets on to me all the time because sometimes I won't have a fishing license for the kids. And like,
how old are? If they're under 13,
they don't have to have one. Okay.
No.
And you just say,
well, sometimes I won't have my own.
Then you take them out of your cooler. Too. I'm throwing them back. Don't worry.
Well, I have a fishing license, but I don't just like think I've got to go get a fishing license if I go fishing in the spring. Like I eventually will, but and Dad's always like, you're going to, game warden comes. I was like,
the TWRA
game warden
and with joy in their hearts.
That's what
yeah.
But maybe I need to look into the fines on that. Maybe those little brim I'm catching and throwing back for the kids are not worth what I could potentially lose.
Well, one more story. It reminded me of a friend of mine named Andy Chesney, who grew up in Morristown, Tennessee, and he was telling me one time that they used to, in the fall, they would rake their leaves up into these big piles up by the side of their house or by the side of the road, and the city would come up and suck them up into this big vac truck.
Yep.
He said, but the problem is that there'd be a lot of kids, teenagers, and they would just, they would see that pile of big leaves there, and they would just steer their car and drive right through it and spray it everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so Andy and his neighbor got in this big idea one day that they were going to put about 4 or 5 cinder blocks in the middle and stack them up and then rake the leaves over it. He said this kid came through there in like a Honda Civic and hit that at about 30 miles an hour and just tore that car to pieces.
Those
My
are the
dad always threatened that he was going to do that.
Well, see, that's what the 80s were about.
Yeah.
Rolling yards.
And then they went to Action Park.
Rolling yards, putting cinder blocks in your leaves, putting cinder blocks in your mailbox. Let somebody hit that mailbox a time or two.
Dude, that used to be bad now.
Yeah.
I guess now we just have TikTok. I guess people just do TikTok.
I see mailboxes smashed every now and then.
Really?
That driving or
that reminds me of a meme I saw the other day that I thought was pretty funny. It said, I thought quicksand was going to be a lot bigger issue as an adult than it turns out that it is. Like when you're a kid,
like every movie.
Quicksand.
Every movie, every cartoon.
Wait, you mean it's just mud that traps your feet for a second?
Oh, me. The 80s. What a grand old time.
What was the obsession with quicksand? I feel like there's a fear every 10 years they pick that they just put in movies.
It was acid rain when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was huge. Don't go to the house, kids.
Don't collect the rain.
It was the Russians for a long time. Like we were all just going to
Red Dawn,
just get nuked up one day.
It's funny how things come full circle. Yeah. It's the Russians today.
I know we're about to wrap up, but we got another review that was referenced, not yet on the podcast, but I think, James, you were telling me about it the other night that someone wrote, hey, glad the podcast is back. Oh, by the way, I don't think man went to the moon either.
Yeah.
And so you and I were, then I was joking with one of the guys at the campfire the other night. I said, well, I've got a telescope and I can actually see the footprints on the moon. So we were there, and I think he kind of believed me, like,
oh no.
And I was like, do not cave in that easy to
I was
that
like,
kind
no,
of nonsense.
I was like, I can see the flag from my telescope, He's like, really?
Well, even then he was like, we still never went there. It's like, yeah, that's right.
But you and I...
That's somebody else's footprints up there.
You and I came to the rational compromise that, but even if we didn't, what a great ploy it was to bankrupt the Russians.
Oh, yeah. You got to hand it to
hey, what if we don't even have any nuclear weapons?
Dude,
Right.
I'm
we just
What if there
bankrupt
aren't
them.
any?
Yeah,
What if they were
there
two
are.
made and that was
Oh
it?
my goodness! And then because we just like told them, well, we got 100. I bet you 100.
and they're like, dude, we gotta say a number
You
higher
got
than
100?
that.
We have
We
101.
have 1,000.
Well, I think if anybody gets elected to an office in Washington, like a congressman or a senator, the first thing they get is this book on how to govern. And it's 2 chapters. The first chapter is called Fear, and the second chapter is called Just Do It. And that's all it is. That's all it is. That's like
I thought it was called fundraising. Now that you're here, let's
we're gonna
stay
write the book
here.
on
I think we will get to the
That's
end.
chapter 3.
I'll close with it. I think we will get to the end and realize that there was a lot of stuff that was just stupid like that, where like there wasn't really as many nuclears, or there wasn't
I feel like
nuclears.
this podcast is unlocking the keys to the universe.
It might be.
Quicksand.
Sam, I need you to do
Acid
just
rain.
a little bit of research before our next podcast
Okay.
about Area 51.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do
I'm
it.
going to send Sam down a few rabbit holes.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Let's
looked
actually
into
send them there live on remote.
it.
I'm
Oh
here,
my god,
I'm
guys,
here.
I'm here. I've got guns pointed at me.
You've all heard about the War of the Worlds broadcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, isn't it?
That's pretty much what I.
Talk about fear. I mean, people were literally like killing themselves, thinking that
What?
the end was near. You haven't. So when that actually was
Jeez,
broadcast
people
on
were
radio,
killing
people were
themselves?
like freaking out.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, nothing had ever been
Why
pulled like
kill
that,
yourself?
ever.
Just let the war kill you. I've never gotten that. It's like, well, if you're gonna die, just
I'm not
let
letting those
it happen.
aliens get me.
Yeah, like what? Just get killed by the aliens.
I mean, I'd at least want to see one before I'd be pretty curious. All right, Hi-Hat listeners, what a morning it has been. The sun is coming up. We're about to go get our day started. We thank you for listening. Oh, and I looked at our download stuff the other day. We're approaching 1,500 downloads
Total.
per day right
on.
now. No, it's total, but I mean, like that's a pretty good milestone.
That's pretty good. No, but
Considering that we took like 8 months off.
I was
So-
surprised at our listenership, despite the fact we were gone for 8 months.
Well, I think if
Y'all are loyal listeners.
if this thing boomerangs and we start getting 1,500 a day, then that would be the
Sweet.
playbook for all future podcasters. Like, hey, just do it for like 10 episodes.
Make 'em
get 'em
want
hooked. Yes, get them addicted. Lay off for months, and then you come back.
These first
It's
12
the
are
exact
free.
same strategy as drug dealers. It's the exact.
first
Give them
are
some
free.
free
After
stuff,
that is-
and then
It'd be like right
$18
now.
an episode.
Hey, well, maybe this didn't work. Didn't they do a reunion of the show Friends? And it was like the biggest bomb. Like
I don't
nobody
remember. I
watched.
never
I'm sure
watched
it was.
Friends, so I don't have
I'm
no
sure
idea.
it was.
But if they tomorrow night said, hey, we're going to come out with a brand new Seinfeld episode, original cast, it would probably be the most watched.
I probably would
TV
watch
ever.
it. Although, I mean,
I
really,
mean, it's like
it would
Star
just-
Wars.
I
I'll
mean,
watch anything they come out
Like
with.
Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of was Seinfeld Part 2, honestly.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And kind of, I would not recommend it if you're listening to the podcast.
Yes, it gets a little bad too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We've given some good advice, some bad advice, and we've advised you not to watch or do some of the things that we've watched or done, from motorcycles and 3-wheelers to 1980s movies
And amusement
So-
parks. They
and
can kill you.
and amusement parks.
If you like this podcast, please consider liking, subscribing,
and
sharing
sharing
a
it,
great 5-star review.
share it with a friend.
Share it with 4 of your friends,
Share-
or just
share
send
it
us
out
a
on social
monetary
media.
donation.
Yeah,
Ooh.
or just send us some money.
I mean,
Wow.
we're here every morning. It's
Sam, do we
early.
not have a Venmo?
I
set
don't
up
know.
yet?
We might need to start a Venmo. That'd be
What's wrong with
that'd be
you?
Great.
What have you been doing
I
for
know.
these months?
Well, we will.
That's how to
we will come up with
monetize
a
it.
Patreon.
I
or
say
something.
if you kind of like this podcast, $100 on Venmo would be appropriate. If you really like it,
Ooh.
500 would
Hey,
sound
if
about
you
right.
pass
if
the
you
plate.
just won the Powerball and you've been listening to our podcast, and look,
See you
all
guys.
right, goodbye.
The Have Y'all Heard About This podcast is produced by Play It By Ear Audio. Leave us a review, like us, rate us, or subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use. If you wish to contact us or you have a suggestion for the show, email us at hyhatpodcast@gmail.com.